Welcome back to the channel. Today, we begin a story that will touch your heart in ways you did not expect. He was the type of man who owned glass towers in Lagos, the kind of man people whispered about when his black SUV rolled past. His life was sealed with riches, yet behind the tinted windows of his world, there was something missing. He had wealth but not warmth, a mansion filled with silence, and a heart that had forgotten how to beat for anything real. She, on the other hand, belonged to the streets. She sold puff-puff by the roadside, her palms stained with oil, her laughter sometimes hidden beneath the smoke of frying pans and the chaos of horns. Her sandals were worn thin, and her blouse had seen better days, but her spirit was fire, untamed and honest. People passed her daily, few looked twice. To them, she was just another girl struggling to survive in a city that never paused for anyone. Fate, however, had its own drama to play. One evening, while he drove himself for the first time in months just to escape the noise of his own thoughts, his car broke down near a crowded street. Angry and restless, he stepped out, his polished shoes meeting dusty ground. That was when his eyes caught her. Not because she was the most beautiful he had ever seen, but because she was different. She laughed in a way that cut through the heaviness he carried, and it startled him. He stood still, watching her sell to customers with hands that moved fast and eyes that sparkled with life. She did not notice him at first. To her, he was just another man in fine clothes, probably too proud to buy from her. But for him, that moment planted a seed. He had the world at his feet, yet here he was, drawn to a street girl frying puff-puff, like the city had paused just to make this meeting happen. The story was about to begin, and neither of them knew how far it would go. He could have called his driver, or even waved his hand for one of the men always ready to fix a rich man's car for quick cash. But something held him there. The billionaire who could buy silence suddenly wanted noise, wanted to breathe in the messiness of the street. She glanced at him once, briefly, and returned to her work. He was used to women staring, whispering, adjusting their walk when he passed. But this girl, frying puff-puff with smoke rising around her like a crown, didn't care. That was her magic. When her tray became empty, she picked her small nylon bag, ready to pack up for the night. He watched her struggle to count coins, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of her arm. Without thinking, he stepped closer. "How much for everything you've sold today?" His voice was calm but firm. She raised her head slowly, suspicious at first. Men in suits rarely spoke to her. They bought from her only when their drivers or house helps weren't around. She frowned slightly, dusting flour off her palms. "Everything. Why you want know?" she asked, her tone playful but guarded. He chuckled, something he had not done genuinely in weeks. "Because I want to buy your whole day." Her eyes widened a little, then she laughed, a sound that surprised even herself. "Oga, I no day sell my day. Na only puff-puff I day sell." For a moment, the billionaire forgot the broken car behind him, forgot his polished world. He was simply a man standing in front of a girl who refused to be intimidated. And in that refusal, he felt alive. "Then sell me puff-puff tomorrow." "I'll come," he said, his eyes fixed on her, as if making a promise. She shook her head, amused. "If you like, come. If you no like, beg no disturb me." With that, she lifted her tray and walked away, her sandals slapping the dusty ground, leaving him standing in silence. That night, in his mansion, surrounded by marble and chandeliers, he couldn't forget her. He replayed her words, her laughter, her refusal. She was not like anyone he knew, and that unsettled him. For the first time in a long while, the billionaire wanted something money could not simply buy. The next day came, hot and restless, with the Lagos sun pouring down like fire. She was back at her spot, puff-puff sizzling in hot oil, smoke rising, and customers crowding around. Her hands moved with skill, flip, fry, and serve. It was her rhythm, her survival. She didn't expect him to come back. Men like him didn't return to the streets unless it was to wave charity around and feel good about themselves. But then she saw him. Same suit, though today he had removed the jacket and folded his sleeves. He stood with the kind of calm that made people pause. Some of her customers began to whisper. Who was this fine man in polished shoes buying puff-puff like an ordinary worker? Some even laughed, saying maybe he lost his way. But he didn't care. His eyes stayed on her. How much today? He asked, as if yesterday's conversation was still hanging in the air. She narrowed her eyes, her lips twitching in amusement. You again. You no get better food for your house. He smiled faintly. I want puff-puff from you. This time she gave in. She packed a few into nylon, the oil still dripping, and handed it to him. Their fingers brushed lightly, and for reasons she couldn't explain, her heart skipped. She quickly pulled back. You go pay, she teased. He reached for his wallet but she stopped him. Keep your money. You too fine today carry change. The words slipped from her mouth before she could stop them, and when she realized what she had said, she turned quickly, pretending to focus on the frying pan. He laughed, and that sound made her cheeks warm. For the rest of the day, her thoughts betrayed her. Why was she thinking about a man she barely knew? Why did his smile linger in her head when she had bigger worries, like paying her younger brother's school fees and covering her mother's medicine? On his side, sitting later in his office with glass walls reflecting the city, he chewed one of the puff-puff pieces, and for the first time in years, food tasted alive. It wasn't the flour or sugar, it was her. That girl. The one who sold puff-puff and gave him a reason to return. Days rolled into weeks, and his visits became a routine she pretended not to notice. He always came around evening, when the street was loud with shouting bus conductors and the smell of roasted corn filled the air. He would stand by her stall, sometimes buying, sometimes just watching her work as though her presence gave him a kind of peace he couldn't find elsewhere. The street people started talking. Na who be that oga way day always buy puff-puff, one woman whispered. Another laughed. Maybe na her sugar customer. She ignored them, pretending not to care. But inside, she was confused. Why would a man like him leave his fine world to sit by her smoky frying pan? One evening, when business slowed, he asked the question she had been avoiding. What's your name? She almost didn't answer. Names, to her, carried weight. But something about his tone made her soften. Chioma, she said at last, brushing flour from her cheek. He repeated it slowly, like he wanted to taste every letter. Chioma. She tilted her head at him. And you? What's your own name? Abi you think say I no one know. He smiled, a rare genuine smile. Daniel. That name meant nothing to her. To the city, it meant billions, contracts, headlines. But to her, it was just Daniel, the man who kept buying puff-puff without complaint. That night, as she walked home with her nylon bag of leftover puff-puff, she found herself whispering his name under her breath, annoyed at herself. She lived in a one-room space with her mother and younger brother. The zinc roof leaked when it rained, and the floor was always dusty, but it was home. Daniel did not belong in such a world, and she reminded herself of that fact again and again. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his mansion, sipping water from a glass that cost more than her entire stall. Yet, in the middle of all that wealth, he felt something strange. He felt lonely. He had met business partners, politicians, models, but none of them had spoken to him the way Chioma did. None had looked him in the eye without fear. And it was that honesty that pulled him back to her, again and again. The city was a noisy place, but somehow, between Chioma and Daniel, there was a silence that spoke louder than traffic horns. People noticed now. Neighbors gossiped when his SUV appeared on the street. Customers teased her, saying, Chioma, na billionaire husband you day fry puff puff for oh. She would laugh and roll her eyes, but deep inside, her heart was no longer steady. One afternoon, he surprised her again. Instead of pulling up in his fine car, Daniel came on foot, wearing a simple polo shirt and jeans. No bodyguards, no fancy airs. He looked like an ordinary man. She almost didn't recognize him. "Why you dress like this?" she asked, amused. He shrugged, smiling. "Because today, I just want to be Daniel. Not the billionaire." It was the first time she let her guard down fully. They walked together after she closed shop, weaving through busy streets. Children ran past them, sellers shouted prices, and Okadas sped dangerously close, yet somehow it all felt lighter. Daniel carried her tray without complaint, shocking her even more. "You fit break your soft hand, oh," she teased, watching him balance the tray awkwardly. He laughed, a sound that made her forget the weight of life for a moment. "Then teach me how to carry it well." At the compound, her little brother rushed out, eyes shining. "Sister, nah him again." The boy clung to Daniel's leg, already claiming him. Their mother, still weak but smiling faintly, nodded from the doorway. It felt strange, like Daniel was slowly becoming part of them. That night, Chioma couldn't sleep. She lay on her thin mattress, staring at the zinc roof as rain tapped against it. She remembered the way Daniel's hand brushed hers when he took the tray, the way he listened when she spoke about her struggles. No man had ever listened like that. She turned on her side, whispering to herself, "Not only puff puff I day fry. Wetin a billionaire day find for my life." But even as she said it, she couldn't stop the warmth in her chest. He had made a crack in her walls, and no matter how she fought it, she was beginning to let him in. Rumors travel faster than harmattan wind, and soon, Chioma's street became a theater. Women gossiped, men joked, and even children whispered about the billionaire who came for puff puff every evening. Some called her lucky, others warned her. "Nah Richmond. Dem Northwest day stay one place," one elderly woman muttered while buying akara. Chioma pretended she didn't care, but her heart was restless. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. Her life had always been simple: wake early, fry puff puff, hustle money, take care of family, sleep, repeat. Now everything was changing, and it frightened her. One evening, as Daniel arrived, two young men hanging by the corner smirked loudly. "Oga, you don leave your fine babes for Victoria Island come day follow puff puff girl? Na wow." Chioma froze, embarrassment burning her cheeks. She wanted the ground to open and swallow her. She expected Daniel to be angry, to snap at them, but instead, he simply smiled, his voice calm. "Sometimes, na puff puff girl better pass fine babes," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The street erupted in laughter. Chioma, mortified, smacked his arm lightly. "You day craze," she whispered, though a shy smile tugged her lips. That night, he took her for a walk by the lagoon. It was the first time she left her neighborhood with him, and the city lights reflecting on the water felt like another world. She wore her plain brown skirt and blouse, feeling out of place beside his neat clothes. But when Daniel looked at her, it wasn't her clothes he saw, it was her eyes. "Chioma," he said softly, "you make me feel like myself. Not the billionaire. Just a man." Her heart fluttered, but she hid it with laughter. "Na puff puff power, ABI?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just you." For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the soft waves hitting the shore. She looked away quickly, afraid of what her eyes might reveal if she met his. Because deep down, she knew something dangerous was happening. She was falling for him. And falling for a man like Daniel was the kind of risk she wasn't sure her fragile world could survive. By now, Chioma's world was no longer the same. Every evening, she found herself waiting for him, though she never admitted it. She would pretend to be annoyed when he came late, crossing her arms and frowning. But the truth was, her heart leapt each time she saw him. Her mother noticed first. One night, while folding clothes on their small bed, Mama said, "That young man, his eyes day different when he look you. Be careful, Chioma. Men with plenty money, their love fit sweet like honey but cut like knife." Chioma forced a laugh, though her chest tightened. "Mama, no worry. Na only puff puff we day sell. Nothing more." But she couldn't convince herself. Meanwhile, Daniel's world was also shaking. His friends questioned him. "Guy, you day craze. You, a billionaire, with street girl? A beg, no fall your hand." But Daniel didn't care. He had attended countless dinners with women dressed in diamonds, yet none of them made him feel alive the way Chioma did when flour dust covered her cheeks. One afternoon, Daniel decided to do something bold. He asked her, "Chioma, leave this stall for one day. Follow me somewhere." She raised a brow, suspicious. "Somewhere like where? I know they follow man anyhow." "Not anyhow," he said gently. "With me." Against her better judgment, she agreed. He drove her to a quiet restaurant by the water, not one of those loud luxury places, but somewhere simple and calm. For the first time, she sat at a table covered with white cloth, her fingers nervous as she tried to hold the cutlery. She felt out of place, yet Daniel's calm smile made her breathe easier. "Why me?" she finally asked, unable to hold it in. "You fit get any woman you want. Why puff puff seller?" Daniel leaned closer, his eyes steady. "Because with you, I don't feel empty. You don't see my money, you see me. That's what I've been searching for." Her throat tightened, her eyes stung, and she looked away quickly. She didn't want him to see her heart betraying her. But deep inside, she knew, she was already his, whether she liked it or not. The night air was soft, the city lights twinkling like scattered stars, yet Chioma's heart beat louder than the traffic on the bridge. She had never imagined herself here, sitting across from a billionaire who spoke to her like she mattered, who looked at her as though she was the most valuable thing in the room. But love, especially love between two different worlds, is never simple. As they left the restaurant, a group of photographers waiting outside caught them. Flashes lit the night, and voices shouted questions. "Who is she? Is this the mystery woman?" Daniel quickly shielded her, guiding her into the car, but the damage was done. By morning, her world was shaking. Newspapers carried his picture with a blurry shot of her by his side. On social media, her name trended. Some called her lucky, others mocked her. "Street girl aiming high," one headline sneered. Chioma's stall became a circus. Customers crowded, not for puff-puff, but to gossip, to point, to ask foolish questions. She wanted to disappear. Daniel came that evening, his face serious. "I'm sorry, Chioma. I should have protected you better." She shook her head, her hands trembling as she wiped sweat from her brow. "This is not my life, Daniel. I no fit handle this. People dey laugh me, talk rubbish. I dey shame." He stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. "Look at me. I don't care about what they say. I only care about us. Do you care about me?" Her eyes filled with tears. She wanted to deny it, to protect herself, but her heart betrayed her. "I do." In that moment, Daniel reached for her hand, rough with flour, and held it tightly in his polished palm. The street around them seemed to fade, the noise, the whispers, even the frying smoke. It was just them. Life ahead wouldn't be easy. She knew that. The gap between their worlds was wide, the battles many. But for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe love could build a bridge. And so, the billionaire and the puff-puff seller stood side by side, ready to face a city that never stopped watching, their hearts beating to a rhythm money could never buy.